Rhea traced a fingertip lightly across the cool metal of the Chronarium's casing. Its rhythmic pulse throbbed beneath her touch, a beacon in the silent desert sands. The twin moons cast long skeletal shadows that danced and twisted around the worn machinery, their faint silver glow struggling to pierce the oppressive blackness of the night. "If it's as unstable as the reports say," Zia muttered from behind, her voice raspy, "we're not going to have a lot of time." Rhea turned, her eyes meeting Zia's worried gaze. "Reports are often exaggerated. We knew that coming into this." She ran a hand through her short, dark hair, trying to find a sense of calm she didn't truly feel. "Besides, if anyone can stabilize it," her voice trailed off, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the silence. "If Anya were here." Zia shifted uneasily, the worn fabric of her tunic whispering against her lean frame. "No one," she said finally, eyes fixed on Rhea's face, "can do what Anya could." Rhea knew Zia was right. Anya, her sister, and their team's brilliant chronologist would have known exactly how to navigate the labyrinthine corridors of this ancient machine, how to decipher its complex language of energy flows and temporal surges. But a rogue dimensional shift had ripped Anya from them months ago, leaving a gaping hole in their world and an unbearable weight on Rhea's shoulders. The only path forward was through the Chronarium itself, into the swirling vortex of time it controlled. A journey no one else dared to take, a journey fraught with peril and uncertainty. But for Zia, for their team, and for Anya's memory, Rhea had to try. "We start here," she said finally, her voice firm despite the tremor in her heart. "By accessing the core." Rhea pointed towards a panel etched with archaic glyphs that pulsed faintly beneath their hands. "Zia, you keep an eye on my readings. If anything feels off, we abort immediately, understood?" Zia nodded, her eyes hardening with resolve. "Understood. Let's bring Anya home." Rhea drew a deep breath and touched the panel. A rush of energy jolted through her body, searing images flashing behind her eyelids, swirling nebulae, colliding asteroids, flashes of lightning against a backdrop of an impossible iridescent sky. With a jolt, Rhea found herself pulled forward, submerged in a tide of sensations that threatened to drown her senses. Rhea stumbled, her vision blurring as she crashed against a wall of shimmering energy. What happened?" she gasped, feeling disoriented amidst the dizzying kaleidoscope of swirling colors. Zia, seemingly unaffected by the transition, materialized beside her, her eyes wide with concern. "Hang on, Rhea, you look." Zia paused, searching for the right word. "Distracted." Rhea shook her head, a wave of nausea gripping her stomach. The flickering lights cast everything in shades of emerald and amethyst, the walls rippling like liquid waves. "I don't know. It's like..." Her voice trailed off as she struggled to describe the overwhelming influx of sensations. A million different memories, all happening at once. "Focus," Zia commanded, placing a hand on Rhea's shoulder. "We need to stabilize this Chronarium before it overloads." Her gaze flicked towards a series of control panels illuminated by pulsating orbs of light. Each panel shimmered and throbbed with an eerie energy. "Where do we even begin?" Rhea drew a shaky breath, focusing on Zia's steady presence. "Those readings, they're chaotic. It's like the timelines are bleeding into each other." She pointed to a flickering symbol resembling a twisted hourglass. "This must be the core, but I've never seen it powered this way." Zia frowned at the complex web of inscriptions covering the core panel. "I need more data. Can your scanner pick up anything useful?" She rummaged through her pack, pulling out a handheld device that emitted a soft hum. Rhea nodded, her hand hovering over her own wrist-mounted interface. "It's picking up fragments, echoes of events. I just can't piece them together yet." "Start with the central hourglass," Zia said decisively. "If we can stabilize the core flow, maybe it will shed light on what's happening." She looked at Rhea, her expression serious. "Remember, this place is unstable. One wrong move and could trigger a temporal cascade." Rhea's fingers traced the glyphs on the central hourglass. Each symbol pulsed with a different color, creating a dizzying effect. A low hum emanated from the panel as Rhea felt a tremor run through the Chronarium itself. "Those readings are off the charts," Zia said, her brows furrowed in concentration as she watched the data streaming across her handheld scanner. "Whatever caused this temporal cascade, it's pushing the boundaries of what we know about chronal stability." Rhea nodded, feeling a wave of unease wash over her. I can feel it too, like 1,000 threads pulling out of time, fraying at the edges. She paused, studying the complex web of energy lines that crisscrossed the core panel. The hourglass. It's trying to regulate the flow, but it's overwhelmed. We need to find a way to amplify its signal, Zia said, her voice tight with urgency. If we can bolster its power, maybe we can stabilize the flux before it rips open the fabric of reality. Rhea's eyes scanned the control panel, searching for any clue, any hint that would lead them toward a solution. There, nestled amongst a cluster of flickering orbs, was a symbol she hadn't noticed before. "What's that?" Rhea said, pointing to the unfamiliar glyph. "I don't recognize it." Zia squinted at the panel. "It's not part of any standard chronal design I've seen," she admitted, her voice low with concern. "But there's something familiar about it." Suddenly, a memory flashed through Rhea's mind. A fragment of an ancient text she had glimpsed in the Academy archives. It described a forgotten energy source, harnessed only by the most advanced chronal engineers, capable of manipulating the very essence of time. Could this be? "I think I know what it is," she whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "But activating it might be too dangerous." Zia's eyes narrowed in determination. "If there's even a chance it can help stabilize the Chronarium, we don't have time to hesitate." "It's not part of any standard chronal design I've seen," Zia admitted, her voice low with concern. "But there's something familiar about it." Suddenly, a memory flashed through Rhea's mind, a fragment from an ancient text she'd glimpsed in the Academy archives. It described a forgotten energy source, harnessed only by the most advanced chronal engineers, capable of manipulating the very essence of time. Could this be? "I think I know what it is," she whispered, her voice filled with both excitement and trepidation. "But activating it might be too dangerous." Zia's eyes narrowed in determination. "If there's even a chance it can help stabilize the Chronarium, we don't have time to hesitate." Rhea hesitated, studying the unfamiliar glyph. It pulsed with a sinister purple light that seemed to writhe and coil around itself. The energy readings surrounding it were erratic, fluctuating wildly. "It feels untamed," she murmured, "like trying to control a raging storm." Zia placed a reassuring hand on Rhea's arm. "We have to trust our instincts, Rhea. Anya trusted us." Rhea met Zia's gaze, her fear momentarily dissolving into steely resolve. She gripped the scanner tighter and focused on the glyph, drawing on every ounce of her knowledge, every flicker of intuition inherited from Anya. "Here," Rhea said, tracing a finger across the panel. "This needs to be aligned with the central flow, but in reverse." Zia watched, her brow creased with concentration, as Rhea adjusted a series of intricate levers and dials flanking the symbol. The Chronarium hummed around them, resonating with an increasingly intense frequency. "Hold steady," Zia commanded, adjusting the readings on her own scanner, "and ready yourself for a surge." The central hourglass flared white-hot, bathing everything in blinding light. Then, silence. Rhea and Zia stood, momentarily stunned, as the Chronarium settled back into a new rhythm. The frantic energy spikes had been replaced by a steady pulse, calm yet powerful. A sense of relief washed over them, followed by a cautious elation. "By the chronal core," Zia breathed, her voice choked with awe. It worked. Rhea felt a rush of pride mixed with exhaustion. She surveyed the control panel, her eyes still adjusting to the after-image of the brilliant white light. "But that energy, it's unlike anything I've ever encountered," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Where did it come from?" Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, ancient and resonating with power. "You have awakened something long slumbering, children of time." Rhea and Zia spun around, their hearts pounding in unison as a wave of shimmering energy coalesced from the center of the Chronarium, taking the form of a being unlike anything they had ever seen before. Rhea's hand instinctively went to her scanner, but its readings were useless against this otherworldly presence. It radiated an energy unlike anything in the chronal spectrum she knew, pure, raw power that seemed to bend time around it. Who are you?" Zia stammered, taking a step back even as she held her ground. Her handheld device whirred frantically, struggling to capture data from this impossible entity. The being's form shimmered, the energy coalescing into vaguely humanoid shape. It spoke without moving its lips, its voice resonating directly within their minds, a chorus of whispers across the vast expanse of time. I am the guardian of the Chronarium, keeper of the sands that flow through eternity. Zia exchanged a bewildered glance with Rhea. This was far beyond anything they had anticipated. But why? She pressed, her voice shaky with disbelief. Why have you revealed yourself now? The guardian pulsed again then, its form solidifying slightly as if concentrating. Because the balance is breaking, it declared, its voice deep and resonant. Forces seek to manipulate time for their own ends, twisting the very fabric of existence. Rhea felt a jolt, a chilling recognition of the dangers Anya had warned them about. What can we do? Her question hung in the air, punctuated only by the guardian's haunting hum. You have been chosen, children. It intoned, fixing each of them with a gaze that seemed to peer into their very souls. The fate of time rests upon your shoulders. Rhea swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. She wasn't sure what this meant or how they could possibly live up to such a weight, but Anya had always believed in them, and now, facing down an entity older than time itself, she realized that their destiny intertwined with the fate of the universe. What do you mean? Zia whispered, her voice barely audible over the Guardian's ominous cadence. The being paused, its light pulsing as if considering its words carefully. You must find the lost fragments. Its voice dropped to a mere whisper, heavy with ancient knowledge and impending danger. They are scattered across time, pieces of a power that can restore balance or extinguish it forever. Rhea gripped the scanner tighter, her knuckles white. Anya's words echoed in her mind. Time is fragile, Rhea. Protect it at all costs. Now she knew what that meant. They wouldn't just be protecting time, they would be battling for its very survival. We will find them, Zia vowed, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hand, reaching for Zia's own hand reassuringly. We must locate Anya's notes, Rhea said, breaking the tense silence. They might hold clues about these lost fragments. The Guardian pulsed, a wave of energy rippling outward. Be wary, children, it intoned. Its voice, though disembodied, carried an undercurrent of warning. Some who seek to control time walk among shadows, disguised and cunning. Zia tightened her grip on her handheld device, its reading still wildly fluctuating in the presence of this ethereal being. That we won't be fooled, she declared, her voice ringing with newfound resolve. Rhea nodded fiercely. Anya's parting words echoed in her mind. Trust your instincts, and never yield to fear. Let's start with Chronos Archives. It holds records stretching back centuries, perhaps even millennia. The Guardian shimmered, its form shifting. Seek the Vault of Whispers, it instructed, the sound a rasping echo despite its immaterial presence. It houses forgotten lore and secrets long concealed. Rhea exchanged a meaningful glance with Zia. Anya's cryptic notes had mentioned a hidden archive deep within Chronos University known as the Vault of Whispers. It was rumored to contain dangerous knowledge, forbidden by the Council of Time itself. But if it held answers about these fragments and the beings who sought to manipulate time, they would risk anything to enter its depths. Ready? Zia asked, a slight tremor in her voice betraying the gravity of their task. Rhea met her gaze, her own expression resolute. Born ready, she replied. Let's find those fragments before it's too late. Be wary, children, boomed the Guardian, its voice an ethereal tremor across their being. Some who seek to control time walk among shadows, disguised and cunning. Zia instinctively tightened her grip on her handheld device, its readings still wildly fluctuating in the presence of this impossible entity. We won't be fooled, she declared, her usual confident tone laced with a hint of trepidation. Rhea nodded fiercely, channeling Anya's unwavering spirit. Trust your instincts, and never yield to fear. Those were Anya's parting words. Now, facing down an entity older than time itself, Rhea knew their mission was far more perilous than they initially realized. Let's start with Chronos Archives, Rhea proposed, her gaze fixed on Zia's reassuring presence. It holds records stretching back centuries, perhaps even millennia. These lost fragments. They must have left some trace. Zia's pulse quickened as she nodded. Anya had mentioned the archive during their last conversation, a trove of chronal data accessible only to those authorized by the Council of Time. Yet, its depths held more than just meticulous records. Rumors whispered of hidden chambers veiled in temporal distortions, repositories of knowledge deemed too dangerous for casual exposure. The Guardian pulsated with an otherworldly light. Seek the Vault of Whispers, it instructed, its voice a rasping echo. It houses forgotten lore and secrets long concealed. Rhea exchanged a knowing look with Zia. Anya's cryptic notes had alluded to this clandestine archive hidden within Kronos University. It was rumored to hold dangerous knowledge, forbidden by the Council themselves. But if it held answers regarding these fragments, risking its formidable defenses became a necessity. Ready? Zia asked, her voice resolute despite the tremor in her hand, reaching out for Rhea's. Rhea returned Zia's gaze with unwavering determination. Born ready, she replied. Let's find those fragments before it's too late. Their journey into the unknown had just begun. The Chronarium archives hummed with an ancient energy as Rhea and Zia stepped inside. Rows upon rows of towering shelves stretched into the hazy twilight, each one laden with intricate chronal scrolls, shimmering data crystals, and monolithic databanks. The faint scent of ozone and aged parchment hung heavy in the air. This place is, Zia began, her voice a hushed whisper swallowed by the vastness of the archive. Rhea nodded, her grip tightening on her scanner. Intimidating, she agreed, her gaze sweeping across the seemingly endless expanse. But potentially invaluable. She turned to Zia, a spark of determination in her eyes. Anya would know where to begin. Her notes mentioned specific temporal events and anomalies, places where these fragments might be found. Together, they waded through the labyrinthine corridors, carefully deciphering Anya's cryptic notes. Every scroll opened, every crystal analyzed, unearthed fragments of forgotten histories and tantalizing clues about the power concealed within these lost fragments. The deeper they ventured, the more palpable the sense of urgency. There! Zia exclaimed, pointing to a dusty vault tucked away in a shadowed alcove. Its doors, crafted from blackened metal and secured with intricate temporal locks, hummed faintly with latent energy. Rhea's scanner whirred, recording readings so erratic it seemed to overload, its display flickering with impossible chronal energies. This must be it. Rhea took a deep breath, her hand reaching for the vault's lock interface. Anya said these locks respond to specific temporal codes, sequences that align with events tied to the fragments. She glanced at Zia, her eyes mirroring the shared determination burning within them both. We just need to figure out which sequence. Just then, a cold voice slithered through the room. Looking for something? A shrouded figure materialized from the shadows, their form obscured by swirling chronal mists. They wore a cloak tattered with temporal rifts, each one revealing glimpses of different eras. A Roman soldier helmet alongside futuristic circuitry, a medieval knight's breastplate alongside holographic data streams. Rhea and Zia froze, instinctively gripping their tools. "Who are you?" Rhea demanded, her voice echoing in the stillness. The figure chuckled, a chilling sound that seemed to distort time around them. "Let's just say I have a keen interest in the contents of this vault." They stepped closer, their cloak whispering secrets across the ages. "And perhaps," they continued with a sardonic smirk, "we could be partners." Zia exchanged a panicked look with Rhea, her usual calm facade faltering for the first time. Their quest had just taken a perilous turn, thrusting them into an unseen web of intrigue, far more complex than anything they could have imagined. "Partners?" Rhea scoffed, her grip tightening on her scanner. "You seem more like an obstacle." The shrouded figure's laughter echoed through the vault, a chilling sound that amplified the tension in the room. "Obstacle? I prefer to think of myself as a catalyst," they replied, their voice dripping with a sinister charm. "A guide, perhaps. You see, children, your pursuit of these fragments, it is fraught with danger." Zia stepped forward, her handheld device flickering erratically in the presence of the cloaked figure. "Danger? You speak like you know our mission?" she challenged, every instinct screaming at her to unleash a temporal pulse and disrupt their form, but she held back, hesitant to provoke an unknown enemy. The figure shrugged, a gesture that seemed to shift with time itself, revealing glimpses of futuristic armor one moment, then medieval chainmail the next. "Let's just say I have knowledge, extensive knowledge about those who seek control over time." They paused, their gaze drilling into Zia's. "As you undoubtedly discovered when you encountered my friend, the Guardian," they added with a knowing smirk. Rhea felt a surge of icy dread. This being knew about Anya? About the Guardian? It shattered any illusion that they were alone in this pursuit, sending a chilling tremor through her bones. "We just want to understand these fragments," Rhea said, attempting to project a calm confidence she didn't feel. "We mean no harm." She searched the cloaked figure's face, desperate for a flicker of sincerity, any sign that this strange being could be an ally in their dangerous quest. The figure tilted their head, their features obscured by shadows. "Understand? Control," they corrected smoothly, their voice laced with malice. "That is what those fragments represent, the ultimate power over time itself. And many will stop at nothing to possess it." A sudden wave of chronal energy pulsed from the cloaked figure, causing lights to flicker and tools to sputter erratically. Rhea stumbled back, shielding her eyes as reality around them seemed to warp and distort. When the light subsided, the figure was gone, replaced by a swirling vortex of temporal energy, like a miniature black hole devouring everything in its path. The vault doors clicked shut with a deafening metallic clang, sealing them inside this strange chamber, alone and surrounded by an unnerving silence. Zia stared at the now empty space, her breath catching in her throat. What just happened?" She looked at Rhea, fear clouding their shared determination. "How do we get out of here?" "Who was that?" Rhea shook her head, trying to process the impossible. They were trapped, hunted by an unknown enemy who sought the same power they did, a power they hardly understood. The quest for the lost fragments had just become a battle for survival. "We have to figure out what they want," Zia said, her voice tight with nervous energy. She tapped frantically at her handheld device, its chronal readings still spiking erratically. The Vault of Whispers was meant to protect ancient knowledge, not this. Rhea stared at the now impenetrable vault doors, a cold dread settling over her. Anya's voice echoed in her mind. Trust your instincts, and never yield to fear. Fear she tried hard to suppress, for Zia's sake, as much as her own. Their goal was to control those fragments, Rhea muttered, tracing the intricate temporal glyphs etched onto the doors. But why? What could they possibly gain? Zia's face contorted with worry. That's what we need to find out, before it's too late. She paced restlessly, her eyes darting around the imposing chamber. Dust motes danced in the dim light, filtering through a crack in the vault ceiling. Maybe there are clues here? Rhea followed Zia's gaze. The room was surprisingly bare, save for shelves lining the walls, empty except for a single dusty tome tucked away in a hidden recess. Carefully, Zia edged toward the shelf, her fingers brushing against the thick leather cover of the ancient book. It felt cold and unyielding beneath her touch. "Should we open it?" she asked hesitantly. "What if it's a trap?" "If anyone could decipher its secrets," Rhea countered, grabbing a nearby torch to illuminate their surroundings. "It's you." Zia nodded cautiously, her hand trembling as she delicately lifted the book from its resting place. It felt strangely heavy in her grip, imbued with an almost palpable sense of ancient power. She ran her thumb over the worn surface, tracing faded symbols that seemed to shift and swirl before her eyes. "This language," Zia began, her brow furrowed in concentration as she peered at the strange script. "I've never seen it before, but there's a familiarity." As they peered closer, the faint glow of the burning torch caught on an inscription etched on the book's spine, a symbol that sent shivers down Rhea's spine. It was the same mark she had glimpsed on the cloaked figure just moments before, the unmistakable emblem of those who sought to control time itself. Rhea exchanged a worried glance with Zia. The truth about their pursuers seemed closer than ever, but it was shrouded in darkness, guarded by a book of unknown secrets and an enemy as formidable as time itself. The clock was ticking, and they were running out of time. "If anyone could decipher its secrets," Rhea countered, grabbing a nearby torch to illuminate their surroundings, "it's you." Zia nodded cautiously, her hand trembling as she delicately lifted the book from its resting place. It felt strangely heavy in her grip, imbued with an almost palpable sense of ancient power. She ran her thumb over the worn surface, tracing faded symbols that seemed to shift and swirl before her eyes. "This language," Zia began, her brow furrowed in concentration as she peered at the strange script. "I've never seen it before, but there's a familiarity." As they peered closer, The faint glow of the burning torch caught on an inscription etched on the book's spine, a symbol that sent shivers down Rhea's spine. It was the same mark she had glimpsed on the cloaked figure just moments before, the unmistakable emblem of those who sought to control time itself. Rhea exchanged a worried glance with Zia. The truth about their pursuers seemed closer than ever, but it was shrouded in darkness, guarded by a book of unknown secrets and an enemy as formidable as time itself. This symbol, her voice barely audible above the crackling of the torch flame, it's the mark they left behind. The one who attacked us. Zia swallowed hard, her eyes fixed on the ominous emblem. It means they knew we were here. They knew about the Vault of Whispers. A wave of icy fear washed over Rhea. Was it possible the enemy had been watching them all along? Had they used hidden pathways or manipulated time itself to anticipate their every move? "We need to be careful," Rhea said, her voice tight with urgency. "This book could hold important clues about who we're facing and what they want." Zia nodded slowly, her fingers tracing the spine of the ancient tome. The inscription pulsed with a strange energy as she touched it, sending a jolt through her entire body. A moment later, the book felt warm, unnecessarily warm, almost as if it were breathing. An unfamiliar tingling sensation ran up her arm, leaving behind a faint glow that mirrored the symbol etched on the cover. "It wants to be opened," Zia murmured, her voice tinged with both trepidation and awe. "I can feel it." Reem watched as Zia's hand trembled ever so slightly as she reached toward the aged leather binding. Rhea knew they were standing on the precipice of something dangerous. The vault held untold secrets, but it was also a haven for those who sought to unravel the very fabric of time. "Are you ready?" Rhea asked, her gaze locked on Zia's face. This might change everything. Zia took a deep breath and nodded, her eyes fixed on the symbol glowing with an ethereal light. Slowly, she began to unbind the ancient book. The book resisted Zia's touch at first, as if sensing the immense power within its pages. A faint humming vibration resonated through her fingertips. "It feels alive," she murmured, a hint of awe lacing her voice. Finally, with a soft sigh, the weathered leather yielded, revealing brittle pages that smelled faintly of sandalwood and centuries-old magic. Rhea leaned in, peering at the intricate script that seemed to writhe before them in an ever-shifting pattern. "It's beautiful," she breathed, mesmerized by the swirling lines and cryptic symbols, like a language woven from starlight. Zia traced a finger across the first page, her touch igniting a wave of shimmering gold that danced across the text. It pulsed with a warmth that spread through her hand and up her arm, leaving behind a faint, tingling sensation. The words began to take form, transforming from abstract patterns into legible characters. "It's translating," Zia whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I can understand it." Rhea leaned closer, trying to decipher the unfamiliar tongue as Zia read aloud. A story unraveled before them, a tale of forgotten realms, celestial beings, and an ancient prophecy foretelling the rise of someone who could wield time itself. "They call them the Chroniclers," Zia revealed, her voice hushed with a mix of fear and fascination. "Beings who seek to control the very fabric of existence." The symbol etched on the book's spine pulsed brighter, casting ethereal shadows against their faces. It now bore a deeper weight, a chilling reminder that they were not alone in their pursuit of truth. "This is why they attacked us," Rhea said grimly, understanding dawning over her features. "They knew we held a key to this power. Perhaps they believe we are the ones prophesied to wield it." Zia swallowed hard, her gaze fixed on the page where the prophecy unfolded in eerie detail. "It speaks of two souls, destined to face their wrath, two who can bring both destruction and salvation to the realms of time." A shiver ran down Rhea's spine. Was this destiny that awaited them, a struggle against an ancient power older than they could fathom? Could they truly stand against the Chroniclers, or would they become pawns in a game orchestrated by those who sought to control time itself? Rhea knew one thing for certain. They couldn't afford to wait and see. The fate of countless realms hung in the balance, and their journey had just begun.